Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question's for the acting premier. Yesterday, we learned that the premier is selling off yet another batch of shares of Hydro One. Clearly, the premier and her Liberal government have not learned their lesson, since they're still refusing to listen to the majority of Ontarians who say no to privatization of our electricity system. When will the premier actually start listening to the people that she's supposed to be serving, Speaker?
Thank you, Deputy Premier. Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to rise to say that yesterday's tranche of broadening the ownership of Hydro One brought in an additional $2.8 billion for the province, Mr. Speaker. That $2.8 billion exceeds, Mr. Speaker, the $9 billion target that we had, $5 billion to pay down debt, $4.4 billion to go into infrastructure. Well, guess what, Mr. Speaker? That number is now $9.6 billion, Mr. Speaker, with more money going into infrastructure. And where is that infrastructure going, Mr. Speaker? Well, let me talk about this. Right across our province, we're going to have infrastructure builds, and I can start off and look at the one here, Hamilton LRT, the Hamilton Go bus facility on Wentworth, Mr. Speaker. That's in the leader of the third party's own riding, Mr. Speaker.
Answer.
We're making sure that we're going to invest billions of dollars right now, Mr. Speaker, across the province, building Ontario up.
Hey.
Supplementary.
Well, nobody buys that nonsense for a minute, Speaker. 80% of Ontarians oppose the privatization of Hydro One. And it's really sad that this is the only government in the history of Ontario that can't figure out how to build infrastructure without selling off a treasured, revenue-generating public asset when the vast majority of Ontarians don't want it sold off. Business owners, municipalities, NGOs, they've all told the Premier loud and clear to stop this wrong-headed sell-off. People need relief from their soaring energy bills, not to hear that the Premier is going to do even more damage to our already broken system. Why does the Premier insist on moving ahead with this ridiculous sell-off when what the people of Ontario need is for her to finally admit that she is wrong and abandon this scheme once and for all?
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the people of Ontario need is infrastructure investment, Mr. Speaker, and that's what this party is doing. That's what this government is doing, Mr. Speaker, investing in infrastructure right across the province. In Kitchener-Waterloo, the Ion Regional LRT. In Welland, Mr. Speaker, we got the Niagara Health System that's actually getting significant infrastructure investments. In Oshawa, the Lake Ridge Health Corporation is getting significant investments. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the list continues to go on with investments. And that's what we can do, Mr. Speaker, when we actually make $2.8 billion, a total of $9.6 billion, Mr. Speaker. And yes, Mr. Speaker, this was a difficult decision, but doing the right thing for the province, Mr. Speaker, takes difficult decisions. Mr. Speaker, we're very happy to make sure that we're investing in infrastructure from Kenora to Ottawa to Sudbury to Toronto and Windsor and everywhere else in between, Mr. Speaker, unlike that party that has no plan to do anything when it comes to this file.
Final